Hello, it's the end of the day on the 16th of November and we're going to take a look at crypto. So for most altcoins, we've reached kind of first target levels, big resistance levels. Even Solana has reached a pretty big level, and Casper and Bitcoin. So most stuff is kind of consolidating sideways. So far, I haven't really seen any nasty bearish reversals, particularly not in Bitcoin or ETH. It's so far it's all pretty nicely corrective behavior in an uptrend. Could turn into something worse, but I'm still in the bull camp for now, and I'm definitely in the buy the dip camp, and I think any that we get might be gifts at this point. So let's talk about where we are in Bitcoin. This is a spot Bitcoin chart. I'm going to start as usual on the weekly. And one of the reasons, so we have started a sideways consolidation. Now, if we get to Sunday night and we don't close more than 50% down on this last green up candle, in terms of candlesticks, there is no bullish reversal. It's just going to be an inside week. If we were to close more than 50% down on last week's open close, it would be a more bearish harami. It just points to correction not quite yet over. But again, not a bearish reversal unless we kind of break these swing lows, or it would be much more bearish if we had made a marginal new high and then closed more than 50% down or closed underneath the open. So just an inside week, sideways consolidation week, and Bitcoin does that quite a lot. People forget that the markets really have three directions: up, down, and sideways. And all the patterns that we look at and the really interesting chart patterns come when we're doing the sideways, when we're trying to read the tea leaves and see which way we go next. So if we're doing that here in Bitcoin here on the daily, this is just sideways correction, double top. Bitcoin absolutely loves to make double tops. Retests highs and lows, very often overshoots a little bit, like down here on this low. We did a double bottom, then we retested it, and that was the bottom here. We did a high, double top, retested it, marginal new high, faked everybody onto the long side, and then reversed. That's just what Bitcoin likes to do. So sideways, we might even go a little bit longer sideways here. I don't know if we're going to go too much longer. This potentially, if this is a bigger pullback, then this previous swing low, either down here around 33,000, but potentially here around 34,500, should hold as support. And so I'm looking for a three-wave correction. These overbought conditions and on the daily here to work off on the RSI, everything to reset the momentum indicators, and we turn higher again. And so we really kind of just need to be patient. So for my Heikanashi on, we're just sideways. There's no reason to kind of get in or out unless you are very short trading, term trading, or with a lot of leverage. If we go back to the weekly, put regular candles on and talk about the levels that we're at, one of the reasons that we could see a little bit of a bigger pullback here, if I draw my fibs from this high that we made in November 2021 to the low that we made in November 2022, here we are November 2023, and this 38.2 fib, they can be messy. They're not sharp fib levels, so the fact that we kind of closed above it last week doesn't mean that we aren't going to see a bigger pullback at this fib level. The this 236 fib also was very messy, but if we look left on both of these levels, we had some really interesting support and resistance where it all got a little bit messy as well. So I don't see a bearish reversal. I just see bullish correction. I really would like to see this continue towards 40,000, and I think there's room to do that. If I measure this first swing that we made from the lows, project it from here, and somebody's going to say, why am I at this high? Because I think this was 5 waves up, and this was our big 3-wave correction here. I don't know if this is a B or a wave 2. And if I project from this range, from this low, the 61.8 level was 34,539, and normally when you get above those 61.8 levels, you kind of hold them. They become support and resistance. And so that's what I'm looking for, this level. That's why I'm looking for this level to hold in Bitcoin. And potentially we could see a bigger correction if we get underneath it. So that's why I've got this kind of level marked here. So that also, you know, double top, double bottom, sideways range. Again, we would see a bigger pullback if we close this week underneath kind of 34,600. That would be the level that I would look at. I'm looking at to hold. So it's Bitcoin. It's pretty spiky. Sometimes we have a really good look underneath these levels and then we still close back above them. So we need to be a little bit careful. This market loves to fake people out. It's actually 34,400. So yeah, underneath there, I think I would probably lighten up a bit and wait for potentially a bigger pullback. There are some people, we could potentially draw this as a channel, a rising channel. Potentially we've kind of reached the top of that channel. One of the things I don't like about this though is I've always thought you need to draw channels with very thick pen, and because you can kind of, especially these parallel ones, you can kind of wobble them around a bit and go on the closes and whatever, and there is room for us to keep going higher in this channel. Let me just line it up and bump up to this 40,000, 42,000. Now 42,200 is the 50% retrace from the high that we made November 2021 to the low November 2022. That wouldn't be a weird number to get to either. So, and just underneath that would be the equal measure move, this high, this low to this high projected from here. So still bullish consolidation for me, but it's just until we kind of pull back a bit, and then I don't think it's kind of a really great buy for a bigger swing position. Sometimes though, markets, especially in a really strong uptrend when they get going, instead of correcting in price, they correct in time. So for example, after we made in March of 2020, when we made this low, when we broke out of this correction, we really didn't pull back very much at all here in May and June. We just went sideways, but we went sideways, you know, for gosh, over 2 months, and then on we went up again. It wouldn't be crazy here with everybody thinking, you know, that here we are, what, mid-November, and everyone's thinking that the ETF approval comes in, you know, end of the year or early January. It wouldn't be weird if we went sideways here for, you know, until early January. So we need to be prepared for that and not overtrade. Only take really good setups and don't get chopped up. I think that there potentially could be better opportunities in other markets or other altcoins. Okay, so let's take a look at ETH, see if ETH's doing the same thing. Now, last night ETH kind of really underperformed, and I'm going to take all my markings off this chart and we'll go back to the daily, because in this daily chart of ETH we were looking for 1909 to be support on a pullback in a bigger correction, and we hadn't got there. It's got very choppy here on the daily. On the weekly, this was a level we were kind of really struggling to get above, and we'd washed through it a couple of times. And so I wanted to see if the market was looking at it, if we would come back and find support from it and turn higher again. So this is what I'm looking for, the 1909, the daily 20 moving average, and so on. However, there is a little bit of a danger that this whole rally that we've had since the beginning of October is also 5 ways. And if you see that, potentially, if this 1909 level in ETH doesn't hold, we could see a bigger pullback back to this previous swing low, which would also bring us back to the daily 200 moving average, which, if we look left, has previously been really kind of important support and resistance for ETH. So 2 support levels I'm watching on this pullback, 1909, and potentially we come all the way back to 1780. Short term then, you kind of only you know whether, you know, you're okay to ride that out or not. Okay, let's talk about, so Rune is my one coin that I think has blasted through the resistance level I was watching. So this is Reen Tether, it's a Binance chart. 5.63 was my first target level when we had this lovely consolidation and breakout down here at 2. And here we are at it. At the moment, we're trading well above this target level. So when I see that, on a pullback, I want to see it become support. So yesterday we broke above it. And today we are having a little bit of a pullback reversal. Now, whenever you get a big thrust green candle like this, normally 50% of a Maribosu like this, it's called a Maribosu because it doesn't have a big tail either end. And so it's 50% of the open close of the body. So if you were looking to buy some and looking for this 236 fib level to hold, 50% back of this kind of open close, for me, 5.49 just underneath. If I was going to put an order, I would be looking for that to hold. And in terms of a daily close, I would like that 5.63 to hold on a daily close. So at the moment, Rune trading above and gone beyond, and support becomes resistance. So I am looking for 5.63 to hold. Sometimes when you overshoot a price, or in a volatile market like crypto, it goes beyond a level. The topping pattern that you normally see, or bottoming pattern, is head and shoulders. So if we were to see that here, I might be a little bit more concerned. But at the moment, no doubt about it, this is turning into a little bit of a pause candle. It's quite the longest tail we've seen in this whole rally. And so, yes, a bigger pullback towards 5.63 and potentially a little bit lower, like 5.4, would be ideal for us to keep us in an uptrend. And more than that, I think, yeah, we have to start talking about previous swing lows back to the 20 moving average and a bigger pullback, which I'm not going to ride all the way back in Rune. But for me, this is the most exciting chart because it's held above that first target level so far. It was a pretty strong close last night. Okay, so the next, actually just one more thing I'll talk about. When you get 5, I always measure the relationship between the swings, right? So if this is our first swing, here's our first big pullback. My target's always the equal measured move, 1.618. 2.618 is where we paused yesterday, and I actually thought we might start a nice wave 4 here. We've gone kind of beyond it. 3.618 for me isn't a fib level. 3.14 is a bigger fib level. But potentially, if this is a kind of big wave 1, wave 2, we should be looking for a wave 4 that holds around here and then hopefully continues higher for 8.6, and then 11 would be 50% retrace of this entire decline, and also really good support and resistance here in the middle here at this 50% retrace level in Rune. So let's see if that 5.6 level can hold. Let's talk about Casper, which has been on fire. On fire. I thought it looked good, but has been crazy now. In Casper, just as I talked about in Rune, about projecting the first swing and measuring, I kind of had 2 support and resistance levels. Let's put regular candles on. My first level was where we reached last week here at 0.098. Let's go to the daily. And we had a little bit of a pullback there, and then when we broke above it, the next zone was up here where we've gotten to at 0.133 to 1.137. And I'm a little bit concerned now in Casper because from this low, it looks like 5 waves up. Now, when you have a really extended 5th wave like this, very often you come back all the way back to this swing low. If I've counted wrong, and quite often I do, I'm not perfect. Let's tidy up this chart here. If I've counted wrong, it will just be a shallow pullback. We won't come anywhere near there. It will just be a nice kind of bullish consolidation pattern, and we'll keep going. If I go down to a 4-hour or a lower time frame, You know, at the moment we've got one of those typical crypto double tops here, haven't we? Made a high, retested the high and failed. And so back to this kind of previous, the low of this range is really kind of, and this previous high here. So we're going to be around 0.12 should hold. If we go beyond that, you know, then we have reversed the trend, haven't we? Because if we think simply an uptrend is lower, as higher highs and higher lows, if we take out this swing low, you know, then we are in line for a bigger correction in Casper. Because, let's go back to the 4 hour. Because of how long this, if we do, so look, for this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so wave 1, 2, maybe. If we look how long this correction took, this took from the 20th of September to the 10th, that's 20 days. 3 weeks. We could be lining up 3 weeks of sideways consolidation or correction potentially here in Casper. So be a little bit careful and make sure that this doesn't turn into something bigger. So for now, we've got our first, you know, since the low that we made on 2 days ago, we've got our first red 4 hour Heikin-Ashi. So we are starting a little bit of a correction. And how you manage this, a lot of it is going to be about where you got in and whether you want to take some profit here and buy it back a little bit lower or not. Ideally, 0.12 holds. If it doesn't and we come back lower, it would be 0.1 basically. And this previous swing high, and potentially all the way back to 0.08 previous swing low. So Casper, a level to watch. This doesn't turn into something bigger. Same with AVAX. AVAX is in a very similar position. 5 waves up, reached a big deal level. Now here on the weekly, doesn't look like that big of a deal, I know. But here on the weekly, we have reached these previous swing highs. So whenever we rallied back into this 22 area, 21, 22, we tried it twice earlier this year. These are kind of, we tagged a new yearly high and we've pulled all the way back from it. And this is another one making quite a long tail on the upside, the longest tail that we've had ever since we made the low. So potentially lining up a bigger pullback and potentially 5 ways up here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 at a big previous kind of resistance level. If I go all the way out, big picture, as you know, I think that this previous swing high at 30 and then 31 and 41 were my 2 upside levels if we can reverse this weekly trend. But here we just could see a little bit of a bigger pullback. That's all I'm warning about. Now, if we do the same exercise with the 236 fib here, then the kind of ideal first place we come back to, I'm going to go all the way from the swing low, is 20.4, and we haven't quite pulled back to it yet. It's also this previous swing low of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's also where our 4 hour 20 moving averages, hourly 50, we can see it pretty clearly. So I'm watching to see what happens down here. I think if we get a bounce and a lower high, clearly we might be beginning a bigger pullback. But for me, this would be ideal trend support for AVAX, and it's got a little bit further to fall until we get there. 20.42 and the swing lows from kind of last week, Thursday, Friday. Okay, Solana is another one that has reached the first big target, the level that we had for it. And here is what I mean by Solana almost reached it. Now, if we go to the weekly chart of Solana and we put our fib levels all the way, retrace levels, all the way from the all-time high in this coin in November 2021, 2 years ago, we are almost there. So when you get to those levels, it's at 69. I know it looks pretty random and in the middle and there's no other support and resistance there. For me, that was kind of one of those levels where I was watching and I would be taking some profit, definitely. However, if this is just a wave 1 and a funny wave 2, and then we've gone 1, 2, we could just be seeing a shallow wave 4 here, and we push higher to that. So I don't want to dump my position, but I just think it's one of those places where it wouldn't be terrible to take some partial profit. Here on the daily, we are pretty oversold, but you know, when you're oversold, you can keep going higher. It's not, that on its own is not a signal to sell, but once you start getting, you know, bearish reversal signals, yeah, watch out. Now, it isn't one for now, but 69, it's one of those levels I'd really like to see us hold above, if we could. If we keep pulling back here, this previous swing low at 51 is likely to hold as support, maybe a little bit lower, 51, 52. I wouldn't want to see it below that, and if it did, and that would say that this kind of potential wave that we're in is over. I'm going to go from this low here. You see, normally the most common retrace of a wave 3 is about 38.2, so 51 might be it, but maybe 48 would be the ideal here. I think, again, this has potentially done 5 waves up. So between 48 and 50, I think we are starting a little bit, not a bigger pull, but again, this is not a bearish reversal. If we look at each of these previous swings, for example, this swing, in an uptrend, you tend to do pretty nice 50% back, keep going. And here, from this swing high to low, 50% back, and we keep going. Even this swing here, low to high, 50% back, exactly, and we kept going higher. So if we're going to keep trending higher in Solana, 50% back and then keep going would be ideally what we're looking for. And we are right here at this 50% back level. So if we hold this support at 59.70, we will do another leg higher and we will turn higher and we will keep going and test that 69 level. If we close underneath 59.70 and keep going, then the second support for Solana is back here at this swing low. So potentially we've done the correction and we are looking to turn higher again. Remember, it's 4-hour and daily close. You can look underneath these levels, and we quite often do, but you kind of want to see them hold. So bigger correction, if we close the day underneath 59.70, we're going to look for 51 next in Solana and a bigger pullback. Okay, I hope that's useful. Let me know if there's anything you'd like me to look at. Good luck.